1, 2, testing. 1, 2, Dom Famularo here. This is so incredible that I have the wonderful opportunity on behalf of Sabian to reach drummers around the world. The Sabian Education Program is so great that we have so many teachers involved that are collaborating, putting all their energy together and their ideas, and my gosh, lesson plans and books and different things. And we just kind of share all this information, and it really is helpful for the larger picture of education. And Sabian is at the leading, front of the line that's making this happen. So I'm honored to be a part of this here in the Sabian Education Network, which is managed by Joe Bergamini, who's a phenomenal drummer in his own right and a great educator and an editor of hundreds of drum books. It really is kind of great to have this opportunity to bring this to you all. And today is fantastic. Another great young artist, great player, and a new author with a book out, which we'll talk about soon. So I want you all to welcome Mr. Christian Johnson.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hey, Tom.
Chris, how are you?
I'm good. I'm doing well. Actually, I'm fighting a little bit of something. I had a gig on Saturday, and I woke up with a cough yesterday. So I'm hoping I'm getting a test today. We're going to see.
Good. Get the test today. We hope it is nothing serious. We sure as heck don't hope that it's COVID in the process. But if it was, you probably would be much more ill. So you look great.
Yeah, thank you. But if I end up covering my mic and that's what's happening. You haven't made me sick. I'm just
good. So now, just first let's start. You're coming from where? Where do you live?
I live in Big Bear Lake, California. It's a resort suburb of Los Angeles. So this is where everyone goes skiing. We have a 7-mile lake, water sports in the summer. And it's a nice, sleepy, quiet place. We have a venue here called The Cave. We got plenty of national acts through there, which is nice as well. So we're not that far off the beaten path, but
that's
good to get away from LA. Yeah.
How far are you outside of LA?
It's about 2.5 hours.
So are you north of LA?
It's basically directly east, just a little north. But heading towards, if you were to leave LA east to head towards Palm Springs or the desert, we're halfway there, and then you kind of just go up into the mountain, just north of San Bernardino.
Boy, that's fantastic. What a beautiful area. Well, this is great. The connection is absolutely clear, even though you're probably in the middle of nowhere.
Pretty close to it, yeah.
That works out really well. So let's just go back to the beginning. You're a wonderful player, a great educator. You're author now. Paradiddle Mania is out right now. So I want to kind of scope over all of this here. So let's just start from the beginning days of when you started playing drums. What kind of got you involved with drumming, and why was this passion for playing music and specifically drums? Where did that come from?
That's a tough question. It's a long answer. That's really what I'm trying to say. My family was musical. My dad was a guitar player in local bands, wedding bands, party bands, and that sort of thing. So I grew up around the music. And somewhere around 6th grade, DCI started doing, what would you call like drum exhibitions? Just the drum line would come to our town and perform at the stadium. And I remember, I think it was around 4th of July. So we'd go see that. And it was so amazing just to watch the drum lines. And I think that really kickstarted things. I ended up taking lessons locally. And basically, I played through high school. And I think that the big thing, it's just lucky for me, right? I just happened to be where I grew up. In high school, I happened to go to school with a kid named Colin Van Horn, who is Rick Van Horn's son. And Colin is exactly my age. And I remember being a know-it-all freshman playing snare drum, and this guy with red hair is hanging around me going, "Hey, maybe you should try this." And I'm going, "Leave me alone. I don't know who he is." Not realizing, he's the editor of Modern Drummer magazine at the time, And so I got to know Rick better. And through that connection, actually worked backstage at Modern Drummer at the festival throughout my high school years, unpacking drums and just meeting all those amazing players. I still remember, again, I'm a high school kid. I remember Jim Chapin playing on his pad backstage going, "Hold my arm. There's no tension." And I'm going, Virgil Donati's on stage. I need to go, But it was cool. It was just a lot of immersion in excellent drumming. Modern Drummer at the time was right there in Little Falls. Got to know Billy Amendola. And, just where we were in relationship to New York City, because I was in New Jersey, in relationship to New York City, just the amazing musicians around that I just had access to. Dumb luck access, going to things, not realizing, you're there, modern drummer, Joe Bergamini is there, a modern drummer backstage with me as I'm trying to ignore Jim Chapin.
But how fantastic to think about just the luck of sometimes just where we live. So let's go back. So you had said that you had some early teachers. Who was your first drumming instructor?
Very first teacher was a guy named Brian Collins, and he was a few years older than me. He was, I had seen Brian play when he was a senior in high school with the Clifton High School marching band, which at the time, when schools were getting smaller or the marching bands were getting smaller, in that 50 to 30 range for members, Clifton High School still had about 200 members in their band. So the drum line was huge and it was powerful. It was a very traditional sounding drum line, a lot of fight songs and things like that. And Brian was the guy in charge. And he was so good. And he got me going through stick control, taught me to read. He actually taught me how to transcribe music, which was really big change, for me in my career.
Nice.
How that all worked out. So yeah, Brian, I owe a lot to Brian.
So were there books that you were working on? Did he, what was he showing you? Obviously, he was showing you some rudiments and stuff, but what else was he showing you?
So he was big on the Joel Rothman books, actually, and I know I've seen Joel on the Facebook forums too. I've been meaning to reach out to him and say thanks. But we did Basic Rock Beats was a Joel Rothman book, Rolls, Teaching Rhythm. Which I have a series on YouTube where I'm teaching rhythm and I'm recommending students to get Joel's book because I give recommended homework. Hey, you can learn more about this section in pages 10 through 12 or whatever. But teaching rhythm was excellent for me because I really practiced a lot of sight reading with that one. I would make a game out of it. I would crank up the metronome, to 150 or something nuts, open a page and play it without seeing it before. I mean, I played the whole book, but I would open a page and just try to play it down, play it in halftime. I would do things like open a page and close it and try to play as much as I remembered in a single sight.
Nice.
Things like that. And his books are great for that just because of the way they're measured out on the page and all that. I'd read in columns. I'd read first measure, last measure, second measure, second to last, do things like that. Just I entertained myself a lot.
It sounds like you really challenged yourself, which was very good.
Yeah.
Well,
I wish I could do that now. I can't, but I did it when I was 15.
So you're studying with him. So were you listening to any bands at that time, being that young?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I remember he introduced me to Rush. Of course, he showed up with a Presto t-shirt on and he introduced me to Neil. And I think for me, I had so many different things going on. Listening to Rush was really cool. Having Modern Drummer, I remember getting the Mike Portnoy issue. And at the time, they had an album that was Falling Into Infinity, which is a little more straight ahead. And in his interview, he said, well, not every song has to be in 13/8. And I went, I want to hear the song in 13/8. So I ended up digging into the Dream Theater catalog. And mostly throughout high school, I was Portnoy nut. So Dream Theater, Liquid Tension Experiment, Simpty, all those Transatlantic, all those albums. It was everything Portnoy all the time, Yeah.
So I mean, Mike is a phenomenal player, and he's got such a great following. I mean, he really is true to his fan base and always delivers great performances in all the bands that he has. And from when he left Dream Theater and has continued on with so many different bands, he's still at the top of his game.
Yeah. And it's great. It's so weird having social media and having a little bit of access to, watching his dog and all that stuff. I think is funny because I met him at one of the drummer festivals, in the real peak of my fandom. And I was like shaking, to have him sign my program. I thought it was.
He really is a legend in our industry, a living legend as we have it. And, having lost someone like Neil Peart, you rest his soul. I mean, it's just so great that what Neil offered and brought to the table with Rush and what Mike brought to the table with Dream Theater, I mean, they really kind of opened up some really progressive music that really challenged us. So now you're hearing this as a young kid, was there, these bands that you're hearing Rush, you're hearing Dream Theater. Were you putting any bands together to jam with now?
Yeah, so I have well, my main gig is Bow Wow Wow, which is a 80s band. They had a hit in 1982. Um, and that music is extremely challenging. It's all based on Burundi beat, African drumming, which
Yeah.
I know nothing about, and really had to study a lot. And the bass player is Lee Gorman, who's an absolute prodigy. I mean, the guy is an amazing bass player, and so playing with that band is challenged me and my chops, my ability to hear small little melodies and these really complicated tom patterns. And then on top of it, they would do funny things like, well, I don't know, this measures in 5 for no reason, just because, they never thought in those ways, in terms of making measures that up and thinking in math. They just did things that worked for the music. So a lot of times Lee is playing in 4, but my groove is in 6. And so that stuff happens. And I was happy I'm able to parse that out. And then in my own band, I have a band called Glowbird, and it's very similar. We do listen to a little progressive music, but we try not to be too proggy on purpose. But we do have songs. We have songs in 5/8 that switch to 5/8 and 6/8, and we really try to do it just because it feels right. We don't do that because we feel like it.
Yeah, no, boy, fantastic. So in your younger days when you were playing with some musicians, were you starting to experiment playing some of the prog stuff?
Yeah, mostly with my brother. I have a younger brother who's a really excellent guitar player. And so growing up together, kind of like the big brother, little brother thing, we'd get a Dream Theater album and listen to it, and he'd get the guitar book, and I'd try to find the charts online. And, we tried playing through that stuff together. It probably annoyed the heck out of my parents, hearing this constantly. My grandmother called it Mario music. She's like, "You guys playing video games or playing in a band down there?" Yeah. So it was good to have him, to have my brother be able to try to work through that stuff. Ultimately we don't play it, but it was, like you said, it's an education.
But having him around, so you were at least playing, did you get a bass player together? Did you start to kind of put little bands together with your brother?
Yeah, we had bands. They were more, more commercial pop, singer-songwriter things. We did one talent show where we, played a Dream Theater song, and that was fun. But for the most part, we just tried to make music that we thought was more accessible. So we had a few bands just, here and there. And right now I have on my to-do list, it's probably a year-old project. He wanted to cover a bossa nova that he likes, and I said, yeah, I'll do that, and I just haven't. I just haven't.
So here you are now. You're playing with these different bands.
Mm-hmm.
Were there any other teachers that started coming into your life that you started to learn some more from just your travels?
Yeah, I want to mention a teacher I had in high school. His name is Tony Racciati, and he's still in New Jersey. I don't know if he teaches drums anymore. I know he's also big on martial arts, like a lot of drummers are. So I believe he has a martial arts school now in New Jersey. But he was big, and the reason why I mentioned him is because he gave me the core exercise that became Paradiddle Mania. So he was obviously a big influence on me. I didn't really take lessons through most of high school. I went to college for music, but I went for classical percussion. So I studied with Peter Jarvis and John Ferrari and Tom Kohler at William Patterson University. And then after that, I said, I felt like I hadn't really ever played drum set ever. I did, but I felt like I never really studied it. So I started studying with Tommy Igoe.
Nice.
And I studied with Tommy for about 2 years before I had to move to California for work. And
Tommy was in the New Jersey area at that time.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
Yeah.
And his dad, Sonny Igoe, was just an absolute legend as a player and an educator. So Tommy came from real good, fall too far from that tree as far as great playing.
Yeah. And I have a hunch. I haven't confirmed it, but I have a hunch that Brian, my very first teacher, I believe he studied with Sonny, but I've never asked him. So, but I think so.
Boy, Sonny, I had the chance of knowing Sonny and having a couple hang sessions with him, and he was just another one of these brilliant, old school, early players that really kind of opened up the art form in many, many ways as a player and as an educator. And well, that's fantastic. So Tommy says, how long did you study with Tommy?
I think it's 2 years, it may have been 3, trying to do the math on that. When I got the job in California, I had about 15 days to pack up and leave. And that was 2008. So if I try to back it up, it was probably about 2 to 3 years that I studied
Yeah.
with him. Yeah.
So what was Tommy showing you?
I think this is a great story. This is the most important thing Tommy showed me so much. We went through his lifetime warm-up. At the time wasn't a video or a book.
Right.
So at the time he taught this stuff. That was one thing, is that the things that we worked on and that became, products that he sold, he did use these in his lessons, and he had results with his students before, releasing these things on the world. But this is a huge thing. I'm going to show you this, and hopefully you can hear the difference. I might have to pull my headphone out. So I go to my first lesson, and like I said, I've already have a degree in music. I've had some drum set lessons here and there, but I'm in with Tommy, and he says, "Let's hear you play a rock beat." And I said, "No problem. Here we go." And I play this, right? And he goes, hold up. Why are you not playing a rim shot? I went, am I supposed to? He says, you're playing rock. Play a rim shot. And he was the guy. Like I said, after I already have a degree in music, I've been playing at this point for 10 years, and no one had ever said point blank in that way to do this. And it changed everything. It changed everything. I went to my band. I was like, guys, listen to this. And, it changed the sound of the music I was playing. Absolutely changed everything. Just that little play a rim shot.
Oh, so great.
If you're a teacher, don't take for granted that your kids know what they're doing. Tell them everything. Tell them everything.
Tommy's got a lot of experience as a player and as an educator, and of course also as an author too. So it's really kind of great to see the journey. So you're in New Jersey at that time. So when did you make the move out to California?
It was in 2008, and I think this is pretty important to my story. Is after I finished school, I went to school for music business, and never really thought that drumming could be a career. I never really considered it beyond like, maybe I'll be a rock star someday. Never really thought of it. And so my degree was, classical percussion, but focused on music business. And I got a job at a record company. I worked at EMI Records in New York, starting in 2004.
That was in New York City.
That was in New York City, yeah. So a wonderful commute daily for almost 5 years. And then they started going through, mergers and all this stuff. So in part of that, I got a new job at Capitol Records under the EMI umbrella. Capitol Records in Hollywood. That's the building that looks like it's round and looks like a stack of records. And I worked there for maybe another 5 years. And then through another purchase, I ended up in Universal Music in Santa Monica. And so through all that time, I was pretty dead set on I actually started in the mailroom. So mailroom, coordinator position, manager, maybe I'll make director. And I was on that mental path to be in charge of a department at a record label. That was my kind of goal. And I thought that would be great. So, I moved out in 2008 to do that. And I had really good success at the label. One of the projects I did, you'll see I have that Blue Note Records sign up there.
Yeah.
One of the last projects I did is I actually managed the release of 120 Blue Note album reissues on vinyl for their 75th birthday in, I guess, 2016. So that meant, I had access to the archives. I could pull the masters. We were approving artwork and actually creating the physical albums, and they're still out there, and so I managed the whole process working with Don Was, the president of Blue Note.
Yeah.
I worked with him to get all the approvals on the masters. So I was fully in, record label production world. I'm the producer, I think technically project manager for Huey Lewis and the News 30th anniversary edition of Sports. I worked on the Beatles reissues.
So was that your title, project manager?
It was manager of A&R.
Wow.
Yeah, but I didn't do I didn't do like talent scouting. I didn't do anything like that. It was mostly managing reissues, greatest hits, compilations, and anniversary editions, things like that. The project I delivered on my last day of work, the day that they let me go because they were downsizing through this merger. I remember going into my boss's office, and I had delivered Justin Bieber's back catalog on vinyl, and it was, exclusive for Urban Outfitters, purple vinyl, and it was a big project because I had to pitch it. I had to work with his manager to get it done. And I remember holding the physical product in my hand going, I got it done. And like 3 hours later, my boss is knocking on my door saying, hey, really sorry, today's the day. And that was it. That was my last project. So, yeah. Yeah.
So what qualified you to get that job? Was it your business degree that you had?
The job, kind of like you said, it was ultimately project management. So I had worked initially at one point after the mailroom, getting songs up on iTunes when iTunes was still pretty young. So our label wanted to take over that process. So I was heavily involved in understanding the encoding of digital audio, making sure that iTunes is getting the best sounding and best quality audio they can get. And we had a massive back catalog of like 30,000 albums that needed to get up on iTunes. So I was part of that project where we created a chain to actually get those things going, so that there were issues like we would send a CD, iTunes would rip it and put it up on their store, and the tracks would be out of order. So then the royalties were messed up on our end. So it was part of a massive cleanup project to make that machine work. And I think just being involved with understanding audio in that way allowed me to work in the catalog department, because so much of that was working with the archives, pulling tapes. I held a lot of those original Rudy Van Gelder Blue Note recordings in my hand, the actual tape that Rudy wrote on the box. I held those things. And so just having that familiarity, being able to work with the studios and just being able to build a rapport, asking for things, delegating deadlines and that thing. So I think the big skill set was just keeping everyone happy and getting done what I needed done.
It seems like you were at a point where you were able to see the industry in how it was to how it is now. It's changed tremendously.
Yeah, there was a big change while we were there. Massive. Every year watching CD sales going down, and then it's very expensive to get things up digitally, but they need to be up digitally.
Right.
And then another thing that was really interesting is when CDs existed more prevalently, record labels had much more control over what was available in the stores.
Right.
So they could sell through a product, sell through a CD, not make anymore. And you might go to CD World and say, well, I find this album is very popular, I can't find it. And so you kind of build that desire for it. And then, what do you know? It's the 10th anniversary and there's 2 bonus tracks on it. And now you buy that one. In the digital world, you can't do that.
Yeah.
iTunes wants everything for all time up there. So you will always find every album all time. So it was really hard for labels to create scarcity by not creating more product. They just simply wouldn't print it and let it run out. You can't do that anymore in digital. It's totally different. And then streaming was a whole different world.
It really is amazing to see the change of what has happened in the industry to where it is now, and then how it's changing now. It's still changing.
Yeah.
Daily.
I mean, I've been out for 5 years, and sometimes I go, maybe I should try to get back in. I'm actually almost afraid that I would be brand new. I would know nothing about the way it works today.
Yeah. Right.
I'm almost afraid of that. Yeah.
So you make the move to California.
Yeah.
Come out here, you get settled. And what made you come out to California, to this area?
Getting away from the city. My girlfriend hates LA, but I need to be near music. And so it's a bit of a compromise. I have a commute if I need to get into the city, and it's not bad. Actually, I was thinking of you, Dom, going from Port Jeff to New York City and what that might be like. You could still get to the airport. I could still get to LAX.
Yeah.
And all those things, and trying to make the compromise. I think we had that discussion. Find the place where you want to live.
Yeah.
And then the work will come, right?
And that was an important part. I mean, I'm about, with traffic, I think about an hour out of New York City.
Yeah.
and an hour out of JFK Airport or LaGuardia Airport, so I'm able to get there. But I'm far enough away where within that hour, I've got the confines of a very quiet location. I live on the North Shore of Long Island, so it gives me the chance to have the balance of some kind of a family life and even just a life in general, without being under the gun of being in the city and dealing with that intensity. So we find our balance what we do, but you seem to have found that, and not much unlike where I am in Port Jefferson, where you are. It really has that balance. So you're able to have the mountains and lakes, and you've got this incredible, beautiful countryside there. And within a couple hours, you're in LA.
Yeah, yeah. And it's funny because in LA, getting anywhere takes an hour anyway, so it's almost no difference.
It really is. Well, with Elon Musk putting in these boring tunnels, hopefully he'll be able to help speed up the process. He's got a tunnel now in Vegas, which is working out really well. He's working on California and Florida, so hopefully some of the traffic can move faster with modern times as that changes, and putting these tunnels underground. So you move out there. So now you got to meet musicians. How do you meet musicians while you're out there?
This has been trouble. This actually has been hard. I've been using Facebook groups more. I definitely at one point said I can't do any more social media. I just can't do it. Yeah. And so I've been using it more. And they're actually up here. There are quite a few local musicians, but they're not doing tours. They're not. They're here playing in a blues band on a Friday night for $30 each, and it's fun. And I've done that, and I've sat in, and it's great to meet these guys. Finding new musicians has been tough. Finding new students has been tough. I don't think our school system has a music program. So again, it's been Facebook to get students. And then of course, just trying to get myself out there more with the book, with the videos, and getting people from outside the area. And then of course, digging into LA, digging into San Bernardino. Yeah. So, I got the Bow Wow Wow gig again. It always comes down to like who you know. But one of the things I got this from you, Dom, is I had to put myself out there. Yeah. And, when I lost the record label job, I also had some family stuff happen, and I felt very lost. I felt like nowhere to go home. Both my parents passed in a quick amount of time. So I lost my job and they had passed. So I kind of felt like an orphan and homeless, and I felt all those things at one time. Yeah. And so what do? I don't, my safety net is gone, but I'm an adult. How do I handle this?
You gotta survive.
And so what it took was I said, all right, well, I'm going to try the drumming thing for a minute. And if it doesn't work, I'll get a job, but I have some time. So I started playing with more local bands. I was still in LA at the time. So I played with more local bands, but I told everyone that I am officially now a professional drummer and I'm available. And that I've noticed over and over again, telling people that I'm available has always paid off. Yeah. I could have done those same bar gigs and hung out with my friends and done everything and then just gone home, and that would have been it. But when I was out, I said, yes, I am available and I'm trying to make a living doing this. And I had actually moved out of LA when I got that Bow Wow Wow call. Hey, are you still trying to find a gig? Are you doing touring? Are you available? Because we have a job for you. And that worked. That's how that worked out.
So you connected with the Bow Wow Wow gig, and did you audition for it? Did they track you down? How'd that work out?
Yeah, I auditioned by playing along to some videos, or they sent me some MP3s and I made videos in my friend's garage. Yeah.
And you sent it in and they approved of it. And then when you first met them, you started gigging with them?
Yeah, we had one or two rehearsals. That's where I met the band, and hi, nice to meet you. We had the rehearsal, and I think 4 days later we hit the road. Yeah. So that was, again, terrifying. I just, in my mind, I'm never ready. I tell myself, you're not ready. You didn't practice enough. And the negative stuff can really get to me. But I just said, all right, well, if that's happening, I still have signed up for this. So the ship is sailing and I need to go. Yeah. And I'll figure out all this other stuff as I'm going, and, the first few gigs were the first few gigs. And then by the end of the tour, we were smoking and it was amazing. And it's so much fun.
Boy, it's kind of interesting when you mentioned about not being prepared. I mean, most of my life I have not been fully prepared for anything I wanted to take on an adventure, but I did have a good skill base. I did understand music, and that really was the preparation. The life, the life stuff got in the way, what I wasn't prepared for, but the musical stuff we kind of are. So I mean, it sounds like you were really kind of prepared to take on this adventure. You rose to the level.
Mm.
Here you are playing with the band. You're living in a new place. You've got a new situation going on. You really turned it around really well.
Yeah, it was kind of like I had to. And thank you for that. Dom, meeting you and talking to you about these things. I remember the first time we met because I had just made the decision
Yeah.
weeks before. I think I want to try this. And another one of your students, John Lango, who I went to college with,
Yeah.
said, you should talk to Dom. He has some really good career advice. But I remember going to the lesson and showing you a video of me playing because in my mind, I wasn't a good enough player to be professional yet. I said, well, obviously I have 6 years of practice I need to do before I can even hang that shingle up. I need to get my stuff together. And I remember playing the video, and I think we watched like half of it, and you
Yeah.
turned it off and you said, you can play. So let's talk about your career. And to me, it was just shock, but it was a validation that I needed. I needed to hear that I could do it. And Dom, I thank you so much because you have that attitude with so many people you speak with. You can do it. That's all I needed to hear is you can do it. And it changed everything.
And you did do it. And I knew you could because I could see the fact that, some of the challenges that we have, we impose on ourselves.
Yeah.
The lack of confidence. Some of these barriers that we put in front of us are not life barriers. We build our own barriers. So when I saw you play, I said, man, your groove was great. Your time was great. Your musicality was great. Your chops were great. I said, well, we'll always fine tune that. I'm still fine tuning that in the course of my life, but you had it. So the career part of it was now balancing what I call in one of my future books that I'm working on called The Business and Art of Art. It's the business side and there's the artistic side. The artistic side, you always had good control over. You could play and you could do it. The business side is what we have to focus on because I know hundreds of great musicians that are absolutely fantastic that no one knows who they are because they don't either have the business skills or they're too nervous about developing those skills or they don't know how to develop those business skills. So I try to kind of bring them out of that shell and get them going on. And that enhances the music industry. So here you are now. You're playing with this band. You're doing all this stuff here too. Did you get involved with teaching while you were out there?
Yeah, I've tried. The honest truth is that it hasn't been as fast as I thought it or as I wanted.
Right.
And like I said, we're interesting situations with the school system here.
Yeah.
I don't know if they have a music program. So this is one of those things. I think back to what we talked about. You draw that 30-mile circle and you start hitting up schools, right? And I've done that, and to an extent, and it's missing, going, all right, well, but it could be that the area is just not great. It might mean moving. It's I'm not dismayed by it, but I found a local student through through Facebook, and he's been great, and done master classes and things like that. So still, I'm not giving up. I'm not giving up, but obviously it's crucial to find more students. Yeah.
And I think one of the key things is to start thinking globally.
Yeah.
As you post more things in your social media, and we talk about this all the time with the SEN program, with the Sabian Education Network program that Joe Bergamini is managing, about thinking globally and acting globally. And now with Zoom and all these different, platforms that we have to teach on, listen, I've got over 3,000 students from over 60 countries. It is insane. I'm in my studio here teaching nonstop. I just finished a master class just before this class to 50 great students in the Ukraine and Russia and Cyprus.
Right.
All online. Thank you very much. Goodbye. We finish it up. I get ready for an interview. When I'm done here, I'll go to my next student, which is a 2-hour lesson from a student in North Carolina on Zoom. So that mentality of how you get your word out of what's happening, I think is the next step. And I think you can absolutely have as many students as you want because you have such an incredible ability and talent. And plus, the book that you have out now, which you want to talk about, Paradiddle Mania is great, man. You've got some great ideas in here. And we have, for example, many students from around the world already now listening here. So we've got,
Call me.
I'm not sure where Ronnie is from. Joe Bergamini has joined us here. We've got Marco Mamolo. It's Mamoliti, which I'm not sure where he's from. Claude Hoppin is from Belgium. John Gill is from upstate New York. Dave Lewis is from New York area. Dave Stark is from Florida. Look at this here. I mean, Nina Parra is a phenomenal drummer from Brazil. She lives in São Paulo, Brazil. An excellent drummer with some great ideas of what she's doing. We have Catherine Wall here, who's another phenomenal female player from Christchurch, New Zealand.
Okay.
So what you have, right over here, Christian, already is this incredible reach of players worldwide. Larry Rizzo is here. Ignazio De Fresco is here, who's an incredible drummer from Sicily, Italy. And Ignazio is a phenomenal player. He's got a phenomenal book out himself, and he's got a great school, several schools actually in Sicily. He's here with us now too. So it's kind of interesting to see that this is like, you've got this reach now globally here. So now, as word gets out, we got to make people inform them about what's happening. So fill us in about Paradiddle Mania. What made you think about the book? It's got paradiddles all over the place, an application of the drum set, some great stuff. Just talk about them.
Okay. So Don, like you had such a hand in this. I remember when we were talking about career stuff, and I think it was the way you approached it. It was so matter of fact. Like, these are things that obviously need to happen, and when they happen, the world will start to fall in place. And I never thought that way. I just, so you asked me, okay, so what are you doing? How's your YouTube? How's your YouTube subscribers? And I'm like, YouTube's kind of okay. So now I have to do YouTube videos. How's your social media? Well, it's kind of, all these things were not happening.
Yeah.
And in that list, you said, and how's your book? And I was like, this guy, how's your book? I don't have a book. I started, in my mind, I'm going, I started playing drums last year. Obviously, I've been playing for like 27 years or something. But in my mind, I'm going, I just started. I don't have a book. But that thing was, all right, well, I added it to my list. And, I'm not afraid to take instruction. Like, all right, do YouTube, check, I start that, figure these things out. What's going to work for me? Write a book on the list. All right, write a book. And I remember showing you one idea. I don't remember what it was. And automatically you said, all right, we'll do it as quintuplets. Do it as this. Do it this way. And what I realized was that I was thinking so narrowly about that original idea. And that didn't flesh out into anything. I did explore those things, and I went, this isn't worth it. It didn't seem useful, at least to me. And so I remember back to an exercise that my teacher that I mentioned, Tony Racciati, we were working through Peter Magadini's Polyrhythms book.
Nice.
And at the time he said, you can take this 3/4 polyrhythm and add a paradiddle sticking to it, switch between that and 16th notes paradiddles, and you'll get this really cool pattern. Here, I'll show you. So, basically if you're playing, let's see if I could do this. If you got your tempos about there, you're playing 16th note paradiddles. You got, can you hear that okay?
Yes.
Here, yeah. He said, okay, now do that. Now do it as the 3/4, which means just changing the rate to 8th note triplets. So if you're doing, you get something like that. I probably changed tempo, but right. So, and that was cool. He taught me that in high school, and I messed around with that for 10 years. And I remember in 2008, I was in my room messing around on my pad. Because remember, I'm not a pro drummer. I was just a guy I think I was watching cartoons and just noodling. And I came up with, I can do sextuplets. I could do 16 note triplets, and it would highlight like a quarter note thing. And so I would end up with basically this, 16th notes. And then to go to the sextuplets, it would be. I was like, that's pretty neat. I wonder if I could go from one triplet to the other. So I ended up with that, yeah. would just mess around with that.
Beautiful.
So thinking of the book, going back to the book, and so at the time I called that Paradiddle Mania, and I put it online. And so another day I was just messing around with accent patterns, and I would, what if I combine the two ideas? Shifting accent patterns, shifting metric rates while playing a paradiddle sticking. And that's when I had a little Dom on my shoulder say, explore this idea, explore it. So I ended up with, I think it's like 720 different variations of a paradiddle sticking that goes through basically the first, exercises 5, 6, 7, and 8 of stick control. Those stickings where you shift. Oops, I keep hitting my metronome.
You go from a forward parallel, inverted, the outward,
Yeah, and so you're shifting through the stickings. And I said, that's great. And the paradiddle technically has an accent on the first stroke of the paradiddle, of the first stroke of the rudiment, right? So I said, okay, well, let's work through the stick control, but maintaining the accent was my first thought. So, I ended up, the very first exercise in the book is accents on the first, on the 1 or on the number. Then you shift the whole sticking back, so now we're looking at a displacement grid. Now the accent is on the So if we go from 1, 2, 3, 4, now 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. And then shift again. Now the accent's on the and then one more time. Now the accent is on the E. Now the thing though that was really key in this was that I'm not maintaining the paradiddle sticking as right, left, right, left, right, left, and just moving the accent. I'm actually moving the whole paradiddle, right? I'm displacing the whole paradiddle and keeping the accent attached. And the reason why this was huge for me was because I realized when I was doing those other variations, I was stabbing at the accents. So for example, that second one, 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a, I was doing something like a little sharp, and I realized that has nothing. It looks nothing like my normal paradiddles, which are a little more rounder, have maybe a nice upstroke and a nice control stroke after, or a downstroke. Just have a different flow. They kind of are rounded.
Yeah.
I said, no, exercise 2 is the same paradiddle. Just why doesn't it feel the same? So that became my goal in that, was to go from and keep the flow happening. Something like that, and just have it. Can I get it to a place where it's comfortable?
Yeah.
So what I just demonstrated is the first exercise in the book. That's everything I just played, and it builds from there. I start moving the accents around within the paradiddle. So then you play a regular right, left, right, right, left, right, left, left. Now the accent is on that second stroke. So right, left, right, right, left, right, left. Whatever. So that accent's on the E. Then I have 2 accents on the paradiddle. An accent on the second stroke of the double, which requires a pullout.
Yeah.
So these are things that required my knowledge of molar and whip motion and doing my "it's your move," but I needed to have those things to be able to do it. Putting the accent on the second. So I said, well, if I'm doing accents, maybe I should do flams. So it's all the same things with multiple flams. Then maybe I should do diddles. Maybe I should do them as 8th note triplets. Maybe I should do them as 16th note triplets. And then from there, I realized, I can write etudes that mix and match. And so there's a section on etudes that end up being really challenging. There's one rhythm. You're playing the 3/2 or that sextuplet pattern, but it has 2 diddles.
Yeah.
And they're in the middle 2 strokes of the paradiddle. So if you're playing, I'll definitely have to do this slow. Something else. Here's your sextuplet. All right, I think it's two sextuplets in a row. That's the bass rhythm.
Yeah.
But the way I wrote it with the accents and everything, it ends up being, you have your first tap, double. So what was it? So, oh man, something like that. So it ends up getting into that realm of hybrid rudiments, and which I was never a huge marching band hybrid rudiment guy, but I realized writing the book, it was useful because it really stretched my own playing. I learned so much about my own playing. I was able to write it out and go, oh, I got to play this thing now. That's hard. It's difficult. Can I work it out? And is it doable? And is it useful? And then ultimately the end of the book ends with drum set applications. And, just to give you a quick example of a few of those, I might have to take this off. A quick example, first off, was just moving the accents around. I've seen other people do this. I was in a master class with Klaus Hessler and Annika Niles, and she was working on this exact concept, just playing paradiddles, moving the accents around on the drum set, right? That's a basic idea, right? So you could do that and then work through the grids the way I have them. So you have your own. You can do that. And again, the idea is just to create the flow. I don't think it's very rare. You're playing a song and you go, ooh, drum fill time. And you never do that. Yeah. But what I realized is that for a split second, especially like when I noodle around, I need to be able to pull out those singles, doubles to move around the kit. Right. And so, I gave this example, just a noodly thing that I do a lot of times. I might play something like this, right? I mean, it's singles, doubles, it's a mix. It's not just straight paradiddles, but I think the facility to say, I'm going to hit this tom, and my hand has the motion, right? I almost think I never took lessons with Freddie Gruber, but I always imagine, he's always talking about this motion around the drums, and to me, that's my version of it. Like, I can throw in a quick double, I can do things, and I have the facility to get around.
Absolutely, but that was also the Chapin and Morello and those guys. They kind of showed Freddie, so that kind of came back from those roots of movement. And you always had that movement. So I mean, you've applied this in it, but the book, there's three different ways. There's different ways to place the paradiddle that you showcase. There's a use of combinations with different rhythms in how you play it, and then there's different grooves that you can do with it. So I mean, you really offer an amazing amount of information in the book, and I get a kick out of it here too. Here's the let's see if I can show this here. This is, I don't know why. Do you see it fully on your screen?
I can see it. I noticed you can just type up to Paradiddle Mania without the other stuff. It'll come up. So Hudson Music product Paradiddle Mania, it'll come up if you look.
It'll pop up. Okay, good. So then, I mean, that's something I tell everyone to go check it out and see it. It's some great stuff in there. And you've got all the different variations, and it just really kind of makes you think. Anything that can spark creativity and get your hands and technique and ability in shape can only help us with our expression on the instrument.
Right. I think I was telling, who was it? Some of the stuff came up in the Bow Wow Wow gig because, like I was mentioning before, it's kind of like it's an African based. The music is very African based, even though the hit is very poppy. The rhythms on the drums are very busy and African and all that. And what I realized was that I was using almost like variations on these paradiddles to get around the kit for those parts. For example, there's it's a lot of like 4 on the floor stuff, but one of the grooves, I usually use timbales up here for that band because they need that timbale sound.
Yeah,
it'll work with the toms. It's a lot of 4 on the floor. Like for example, one of the grooves is this. How can I do this? Like this. It's that for like an hour. It's a lot of fun, but just, having the ability to loosen up and let the drums move. The bigger drums, they don't have the same as a rebound, and was one of the reasons why I've been studying with Joe Bergamini now. I think it's 2 years almost.
Yeah,
we've been working on my hands because I did the tour and came back with like dead fish for hands because it was that, and I didn't quite have the motions down to make it comfortable and easy. And the tempos are quick, 140, 150, 160, 16th notes, constant, no break, repeated patterns, it was nuts. And I was really hurting at the end of the tour. A lot of physical pain, numbness, losing, I'd wake up in the middle of the night and my fingers were numb. So getting all that stuff under control was huge.
It's great that you seeked out the knowledge with Joe Bergamini, because I mean, he understands, he gets it. He had studied with me for 6 years. I mean, he really kind of put the time into working with many teachers, Al Miller and John Riley, and there was so many great guys that Joe studied with. So this is great that you have this ability. We have on here Tim Conley, a phenomenal drummer in the Canadian area, just where he lives up in Canada. Another great player, and a guy that studied with me has joined us here. Just let's talk about your cymbals now. You got some great Sabian. What model do you have here?
All right. So I have some newer ones. I guess I'll start with those because I'm really excited about them. I recently picked up, I have a HHX Complex medium ride here. It's a 20-inch ride, and this thing is so awesome. It's such a beautiful cymbal.
It really sounds great.
I really love it. I tuned in for the you guys did an interview with Sabian, and they talked about just what makes the cymbals sound the way they do, the lathing techniques, the thickness, and all that stuff. That was really eye-opening for me because I was never much of a gearhead, and I knew what sounds I thought I liked, and then I bought cymbals that didn't match those sounds. I understood things like trashy and dark. I knew those, but I didn't understand what about the cymbal made the sound trashy or dark or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So I realized my cymbals were too thick, so they were all very high-pitched. And I went, oh, okay. I never understood that. So that was eye-opening, right? So went with the complex medium ride. They said that, I had more complex overtones. I thought that was great for recording because I actually had done some recordings and my friends never liked my ride. My engineer friends were always asking me to swap out my ride. So that hasn't happened yet with this one. So I'm very happy with that. I had the HHX medium hats. Again, another great workhorse hi-hat. I used to have the hand-hammered bright hats. And what I noticed, again, because they're heavy to get the brightness, I had a hard time with like heel splashes or even just like, open, close like that.
Yeah.
I had to put a lot of energy to make those cymbals move, and it didn't fit my playing.
Yeah.
It works for some people, but it wasn't working for me. So this is just, it's a lighter hat. It's a little darker, but I like these because they do have some of the brightness with the quality of just being thinner. So they actually move, and I could do that with my finger, and it's great. I have the HHX Evolution crashes. I've had these for forever. I got them right out of college. It was like the first big cymbal purchase. I love those. I just recently got the matching Splash, HHX Evolution Splash. It's really cool. This actually, I'll admit it, this replaced my Sabian B8 Splash that I had since I was like since 1995 or something.
Great.
I think it's time.
Great.
So that replaced that. And then I don't think I mentioned this. This is my I have an 18-inch thin Chinese hand hammered back here.
Yeah.
Which is great. And then I do have a few more. I know, and you probably gotta start wrapping up soon, Dom. I got my HHX Omni ride, which I really did. I do love. This one actually was the one. It was a little too specific sound for the recordings I was getting, so I needed to go with something a little more, just widely usable. But I love this one because it's got the real crisp kind of bow and bell here, just real kind of dry and a little thicker, nice high pitch. But I also like to crash my ride a lot, and so the lathed side, which is a little thinner, gives me a really great crash. And so that's why I really like this cymbal a lot. I'll still pull that out from time to time. And then I have a full set of these. Caught my headset here. I have a full set of sound off practice cymbals too.
Nice.
Yeah. So I have hi-hats. I have 2 crashes. I had to, don't tell Sabian, I purchased one of the crashes on eBay because they don't sell them that way. But I do have a crash ride, 2 crashes to match my setup here, and the hi-hats. And these were great. Early pandemic, I could not make any noise, so I had those full mesh heads on the drums that made a silent drum set, and those were great. And I still use them for my rehearsals now. So the band doesn't need to hear that crash at full volume, so I use those, and it's perfect. So I highly recommend them for practicing students, musicians in a practice room, playing together with other musicians. No one needs to hear your ride cymbal or your crashes in that way. So they're great, and they're super light. So bringing them to a rehearsal studio is fantastic. I love
Fantastic. Well, it's
Yeah,
amazing
very useful.
the variety of sounds that Sabian makes and the options that they give us to reach these sounds is endless. They are such an innovative company that just offers constant research and development for what we need as players. And you have now a palette of sounds that makes this kit sound absolutely fantastic. So, boy, Christian, you've done great today, man. I think we've got a lot accomplished. I want everyone to know that, again, your book's available on hudsonmusic.com. Go there and check out Paradiddle Mania. It's right there. You'll be hearing more stuff about Christian in the future with what he's doing. And it's just incredible that you've attracted people from all around the world that have joined us here from several countries. So it begins, the journey continues as far as reaching the world with all these new ideas. Paradiddle Mania, everybody track it down, pick it up. Christian, thank you so much.
Thank you, Dom. Thank you.
Stay well, stay safe. And at some point when I'm out in California, we'll get together again for sure.
That sounds great. Can't wait. I'll come see you too. I like your little town there you got there.
Oh, I got a fun. I'm in my studio, just nonstop going. I've got some classes I'm doing next as we go on, so it just continues with the fun of it. So, good luck with what you're doing. Stay well, stay healthy, feel better, and we'll touch base real soon.
Great, thank you. Thanks everyone for joining. I really appreciate it. It's so cool. Thank you.
Fantastic.